Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up.
All right. On to week 9. Welcome in. Man, this season is going by fast. Your commish is off to a 7-1 start in calling games this week. He is hot. I completely nailed last week by a mile, the champ. Just a huge win. Just completely rolled Jose. He became El Rey de la Biblioteca. Just destroyed Jose. For those of you who aren't following, that is certainly sarcasm. Frank won by .05. That equates to literally 1 yard. Nuts. It literally couldn't have been closer. I really thought that on Stat Correction Tuesday the game might change. It did not. So Frank comes away with a win. I mean, just like I predicted. I mean, I said he'd roll. So Frank wins, although honestly, probably not how I predicted. While I got the game right, I can't say that I had a whole bunch of wins last week. I really thought Frank's receivers would get it going. The Dolphins, I thought, would be able to slow down A.J. Brown, and that would lead to success for Devonta, but A.J. Brown just rolled, and like I did say, there's no way that Hurts supports 2 receivers, and he didn't. So Devonta did not get it done for Frank. So I like I said, can't really take a huge win, except I did pick Frank to win, and he won. So I will take it. Kind of moving on. We have this week TJ versus Dre. So Saco del Toro at 3-4 on a 3-game losing streak versus Dre the Bobbleman 4-3. Both teams are in second place in their divisions. And they're both kind of in the middle of the pack, scoring around 1,050 points on the year. So they need a breakout. Both really need a win. Now, this week in the NFL is the definition of parity. No game has an over-under of over 46, so all very middle of the road. But 10 of the 16 games have a point total of 43 to 46. So we have very middle of the road games, which is great for watching. You never know who's going to win or lose, but as far as fantasy goes, makes it a little tougher. So let's move on to the matchups. TJ at quarterback has Dak versus the Rams and good old T-Bag versus the Chargers. Dak's coming off a 30-point game. Like I said, he'd have a big week. He did. He's also in a good situation again. He has a 26-point implied team total, and that is against the 3rd worst pass defense in the Rams. And I think most importantly, his line is finally healthy, and he's at home. I mean, he really needs to have a good week, and I think this bodes well for his stack, which we'll talk about later with CD Lamb. Now, who doesn't love a good teabag? If you haven't played Halo, you probably don't get it, but good old teabag in Chicago is getting the start. Fields still on the bench. Guy gets a win in his first start and runs for almost 30 yards, I think 25, 27, something like that. And he gets the stone-cold worst Chargers defense. They give up the most points to quarterbacks. I mean, T-Bag needs to put it together. I'm going with a harsh Earl Grey, none of that chamomile. He's a solid Earl Grey, no milk. I mean, some real harsh T-Bag tea. I think he has a decent week. Now, moving on to Andre. He gets Lamar versus Zona. T-Law against Pitt. That's right. We have T-Bag versus T-Law. It's the battle of the T's. However, let's talk a little bit about T-Law. Unfortunately, Etienne has had more double-digit touchdown games than T-Law this year. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. the running back of the Jaguars has more double-digit TD games than the quarterback. I mean, T-Law has just been the definition of average. Sorry, Cameron. He just has not lived up to expectations. Now, I think we'll have a fine game. Pittsburgh is not great on defense, but we'll hear a little bit more about that later. But, he is not the guy that we thought he would be, some 5,000-yard season and all this passing. The offense in Jacksonville has just really run through ETN. So, he'll be fine. Now, Lamar, on the other hand, boom, triple boom. The guy has 4 games over 30 points this season. That means half of the season he has scored 30 points or more. Last week he scored 43. The offense is really seeming to just come into its own. Now that 43 was against Zona. He gets Zona, who gives the 4th most points up to quarterbacks on the season. Considering Baltimore's defense is getting healthy, it really seems like this team is going to come into its own, kind of finding itself. My only concern here is that they just destroy Zona and they try to kill the clock, and maybe Gus Edwards piles up some garbage time yards. But even if that happens, Lamar should have a great game. So while close, because I do think TJ's quarterbacks should have a good game, I got to give Dre the advantage because I like Lamar in a potential blow-up game. And T-Law has the potential to have some good games, but he shouldn't score under 20. So I'm going to take Dre. Moving on to the running backs. TJ has C-Mac versus Cincy and Mostert versus New England. C-Mac has scored in 17 straight games as a Niner. Now, Purdy is out, or potentially, maybe not, but he is in the concussion protocol. I assume that means they will run some more. If Darnold gets the start, they go against a mediocre Cincy defense. I just think that the C-Mac train gets going, just get off the tracks. The guy scores 20 points every week. I'm going to guarantee 20 points for C-Mac this week. He just does it. I don't even think that's going out on a limb. He's a beast. Barring injury, he's going to be the man. So big advantage there. Now Mostert's a little more questionable. The Dolphins' offense seems to be very up and down. They score 70 points or 20. So that means Mostert has scored 10 or 40. So as a Finn fan, this feels like a trap game. I'm not totally confident against New England. They're playing pretty well. I've got Mostert, though, for a solid game. I think he gets like 60 yards. I definitely think he gets a TD. Let's say he throws in his average of 3 catches. He should have a solid game. I don't imagine him having some sort of goose. Moving on to Andre. Andre gets Gibbs versus Las Vegas, and then Brees versus the Giants. Dre can't ask for a better situation here in terms of his matchups. Monty's out. My man, Monty, is out. So that gives Gibbs an increased workload. I think Goff is at home. Again, I have said this before. That is all the analysis you need. He is at home. That means he rolls. So if he does, that should mean a lot of passing since Monty's not going to be running the ball much, and they're just not giving Gibbs the ball in the tackles. So I think Goff has a big game, which means Gibbs should benefit, considering the team has a 27-point implied team total. I think Gibbs has a pretty good game. Now, Brees is coming off a bye, and prior to that, he had back-to-back 20-plus point week games coming off an injury. Brees seems like he's rolling. Dre's team, I might be picking Dre's team for a sleeper here later in the week in an article. But really, it's coming into its own. Brees also has a floor because he's been getting about 4 catches a week. I don't imagine that the Giants score a whole bunch against the Jets. So not only should Brees be integrated into the offense, but I think he might get a lot of work just kind of salting the game away. So I'd really be shocked if Brees comes out of this game without 100 yards. So, man, that's a tough call. I think it's close. I guess I'm gonna go with TJ for the advantage, but it's gonna be close. I mean, that's a coin flip. Moving on to wide receiver, TJ has CD Lamb versus the Rams, Higgins versus the Niners, and Evans versus the Bills. Mike Evans has a solid matchup. I believe he scores versus the Bills, so he comes in somewhere around 15 points. Higgins is disappointing, but, I mean, against the struggling Niners, I mean, 2 losses in a row. The Niners are just... All right, man, I can't say that with a straight face. The Niners are great. Their defense is good. Higgins just... I think he gets steamrolled this week. I don't believe in Burrow yet. The Niners are desperate for a win after losing 2 in a row. I am taking the Niners in a big way versus Cincinnati. So whether Purdy or Darnold starts, I don't think it matters. Anyway, Higgins gets rolled. Talked about CD Lamb already earlier. A big game for him incoming. I mean, this stack is sexy. I love the Dak CD stack this week. Dre gets Zay Flowers versus Zona. Gets Kirk versus Zona. Or, I'm sorry, yeah. Kirk versus Zona. Amon-Ra versus Las Vegas. So the triple threat there. So 3 very good receivers, or 3 solid receivers versus 3 very good matchups. I mean, those are just fantastic matchups. Flowers gets 27% of the targets in his offense, and he gets to play the 27th worst pass defense. So 27 seems to be the key number. But anyway, I think Lamar rolls, which means I think he throws to Flowers. He seems to be the guy. I mean, obviously Andrews is a big deal, but Flowers is the second target in that offense, and I think that Zay against Zona really kind of gets it going there. Kirk plays in the slot, and Zay Jones is out. So, again, sorry, I mentioned earlier that they played Zona. I meant they played Pitt. So with Zay Jones out, Kirk gets the slot versus Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is dead last in most points given up to slot receivers this year. So, that being said, Pitt is also third worst against yak yards to receivers this year. Kirk is set up to have a huge game this week. I definitely think he outscores Ridley, and I think he has like a top 15 type of week. I see him having a big game. And then there's Amon-Ra, so we'll cap that off with, his best receiver. Talked about Goff earlier. Again, he's at home. If Goff has a good game, it goes through Amon-Ra. So, considering the 27-point implied team total, I think Amon-Ra has a pretty good week. Tight end and the flex, TJ has Meyer of Oakland, Vegas, versus Detroit, and Kamara versus Indy. I am not a fan of Michael Meyer. I mean, it is Halloween week, so maybe Michael Meyer gets the Halloween bump. But, Garoppolo, while not the best, he's better than Aiden Connell or Brian Hoyer. So, I don't know, man. TJ, I might go to the waiver wire here. I mean, I guess he gets Detroit's pass defense. They're not good, but still, man, ugh. Kamara, on the other hand, has not had a single game under 17 points yet. I mean, he has been rolling, and he should continue to roll. Indy's defense, who's been great against quarterbacks, is actually not very good against pass-catching running backs. So this sets up pretty good for Kamara, and I still don't know what's wrong with Carr. I mean, yeah, last year he had Devonte Adams. Yeah, that'll make you throw downfield, but Carr's not even looking downfield. Everything is short. So I think Kamara continues to roll in a PPR setting. So moving on to Dre. Dre gets Kyle Pitts versus Tennessee and Rice. Is that Jerry Rice? No, not Jerry Rice. My bad. Versus Denver. So it is not Jerry Rice. So that sucks for you, Dre. And by the way, this Rice, not very good. He is not Jerry Rice. So I don't know. I mean, I guess he has Mahomes and he gets Denver, so maybe he scores. I don't know, just as average comes in terms of flexes. Now, Kyle Pitts, I mean, the potential of Pitts, I mean, just massive. Oh, that's right. Jonnu has outscored Pitts on the same team, and Jonnu has the revenge game this week against the Titans. So we got to get Jonnu the ball. I don't know. This is just as average comes in terms of groups. So, given that I think there's one of these four players that is actually worth talking about in Kamara, I'm going to give this field to TJ as the advantage. So, in a close game, looking at the teams, I honestly think TJ has a better team, but I'm taking Dre. I love his matchups. I really think he outkicks his Yahoo projections this week. I think better things to come for TJ, especially his running back group is just very good. But Dre's team seems to be built for the second half of the year. We will see where he goes, but I think he sneaks out a win in a close game this week. You know, honestly, I was going to preview the 1 versus 2 game with Steve and Ryan, but, you know, when somebody's favored by 30, I won't say who, I tend to shy away and try to pick closer games. So the commish putting his reputation on the line as the soothsayer of this league, I am going with Dre. I'm taking what I think is an upset and hoping to get another win. So that's it for the week, boys. I will see you at the game.
Put the place up, yeah, we know